All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to try to do something that is going to be a little bit difficult to do in 30 minutes, but I'm going to do it anyway against my better judgment. So we'll see if we can actually accomplish it. I usually do something similar to this with groups like SCORE, and we do it in a 4-hour session. So I'm going to do it in 30 minutes. So let's hope we can do it. I know we can. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background on why I'm going to talk about this, and both parts of this quote are things that I believe in. I actually hate programming, but I really like solving problems. And this is from the guy that created, I'm not going to try to pronounce his name because I'll totally mess it up, but the creator of PHP. It's one of my favorite quotes, and there's many different versions of it. This is the one I choose to like. So the reason I say that is the part I like about the solving problems is I'm always trying to solve problems for people. That's why I started to write code. That's why I create like web apps or anything else I do. But the problem is that when you write all this code, you start becoming emotionally attached to your ideas, right? And that's a big problem. So that's why I put in step number 1 of validating your idea is you're going to have to throw your idea out. So I'm sorry to inform you about that. That great idea you had probably is not going to work for anybody, except for yourself, right? Because you have a problem. This is a common misconception that everybody else will have that same problem. So we're going to start by throwing it out. Step number 2, and this is the second big problem that people run into, is who's the customer, right? We forget to define who that customer is. Maybe you want to call this a user. And I'm going to inform you right now that this customer is not everyone. So if you try to tell me it's everyone, I'm going to tell you that that's wrong. And you can't tell me it's all citizens, because that's not true either. The customer is someone very specific, right? And this person usually has a very specific task they're trying to do something. And you require, this is the good part, you have magic, right, that you possess that can help that customer to complete that task. So for instance, a lot of us here probably, and I'm just guessing, work for counties, cities, or companies, and we built a very common web application of like a parcel viewer app. And there's been thousands of iterations of the same exact app. The customer is not actually all citizens. We may think it is, but it's actually not. It could be that lots of different customers, but for instance, let's say real estate agents. When I've looked at the analytics behind this, that's who I see a big majority of the people using it. And they have very specific tasks they're trying to do when they're coming to that parcel viewer app. It may be that they're just trying to get to their client asks them, can I build a deck on this house? Will the zoning allow me to have a home office? And if your app can't answer that quickly, they're going to become frustrated very quickly. So that's why you need to know about what tasks they're trying to do. Right? So like I said, now they can do this task a little bit better, or maybe they couldn't do it before. Maybe your parcel viewer app has all that information, but it's hidden and it's really hard to get at answering that one question they had. Can my client have built a home office? Or can they do an Airbnb, right? And that might be very difficult in a typical parcel viewer app. Step 3, this is maybe unfortunate for some people. Maybe if you're a coder or if you work in a IT department, you don't really like to leave the office. But you're going to have to leave the office. You're going to have to find out about the customer's jobs. You're going to have to talk to them, right? So when we're validating apps, this is what I'm going to get it down to. And unfortunately for you guys, since you came to the session, you actually have an exercise. It's not a quiz, so you can be good with that. But it will be an exercise we're all going to participate in. So part of this exercise is, and I'm going to go into explaining what this is. Has anyone actually ever seen a value proposition canvas? So this is a tool that we use a lot of times when we talk about lean startup. Has anyone even heard of lean startup? So you got one person. So it's just a way of thinking about starting a business. And when you start a business, you think about it as the scientific method. So you're going to create a hypothesis. In this case, we have a customer. We need to define them, and we need to do this right side, because this is how I'm going to refer to it now. So we have the right side. This is your customer, and the left side is the idea. You're forbidden to even think about the idea until you do this right side, right? So that's what we're going to talk about real quick, so we can get through this and we can do our exercise, because I think that's going to be fun. So when you talk about the customer, they have these things all called jobs. I'll also call it tasks. It's all the same thing. But this is the work that they do in the day, like what your job title is, maybe some other type of thing that people want to refer to themselves as. I think some people make up job titles. You can use that. That's fine. But what does a day in their week or their life look like? So you're trying to capture all that information. It can be a lot, but it starts to get really important because, and this is not from the lens of this idea that you have, right? This is everything, because the reality is the one thing you want them to do is probably 0.1% of their whole life. And if you make it difficult, they're never going to come back. So the second part of this is pains, right? So what stops them from doing those jobs? Like anything that's going to stop them from doing it is something you need to know about, okay? So things like what's going to keep them up at night. I'm going to have sample questions that you can actually ask these customer segments to do it, and that's what the exercise is going to be about. So what helps them do those jobs better? And this can be emotional. This might be even things that they want to have happen because they're doing it, right? And these are called gains. So anything that helps them do that job better or that task. So what would help a real estate agent get to the fact that their client wants to build an Airbnb in their basement, right? How would you help them decide whether they could do that with that particular zoning? So here we come to the idea, right? And this is the part that everyone really wants to rush to. And I told you to throw it out. But once you get all that information about the jobs, the tasks, the pains, the gains, right? And surprisingly, gains are probably more important because these are the emotional things that people are tied to. So you really want to hit on them. But now that you get that information, now you can start coming up with ideas. And this is the key part, is that it has to help them accomplish one of their jobs. Not all of their jobs. Don't try to do all of their jobs. It's not possible to do that in the beginning. Maybe later on you can start getting more of them. But you want to be able to do one of them. And this is your product or service. This is your idea. So the next part is talking again. I'm going to say one, because it's really important. You can't do all of this. You want to do one, and you want to do it very well. You want to attach to one of their pains, a pain reliever, a way you're going to relieve their pains, right? And this becomes really important. Again, we're going to go to gain creators. You're going to pick one. You're going to attach to one, and you're going to try as hard as you can to accomplish that. Get all this great information. This is even more important, and I'm adding this in just because this is something that personally drives me crazy when I come to a site and people use jargon. So jargon is PIN number, right? When you go and interview these people, you want to hear how they refer to PIN numbers, how they refer to zoning. And you want to use that language in your site to make sure you match the mental model that they have when they're coming to it. Because if you don't, they're going to be confused right there. So it's really important. That's another really good reason why you want to talk to these folks. You want to understand their jargon. I don't know if anyone was at NCGIS 2 years ago, but I did something on usability. And this is where the validation goes. I'm not doing usability this time. But once you create this idea and you have all this great research about talking to people, you need to validate that the tool that you built actually accomplishes all those things that you think it does. So those tasks that they have, like if you want to know if a user can come to your parcel viewer app and tell if the zoning will tell them if they can build an Airbnb, you have to ask them to do it, and you have to watch them do that. And that's the validation part. And then you have to repeat that over and over again, and that never ends because people always have problems. So now we're going to switch gears. Sorry about that. Now it's your turn, right? And I have these questions. Ian is going to help me pass it out. And what we're going to do is we're going to split into groups. So you're going to actually have to talk to people here. Sorry about that. But we're going to talk to people, and we're going to take 5 minutes on each one of these sections. So there's what I'm passing out is going to have 3 sections. It's going to have a jobs, it's going to have a pains, and it's going to have a gains. And these questions are on there. And you're going to find somebody sitting next to you. And maybe you can do groups of 3 if you want. And you're going to ask the person next to you these 3 questions. But we're going to take 5 minutes on each. We're going to start with jobs. So once Ian gets this passed out, then I'll put on a timer, and I'm going to time everybody. So just pay attention to me when I start yelling at you that we need to get back together. What's that? Yeah, so I printed like 30, I think. So if you want to get like closer and maybe bigger groups.
Bring the size together.
Yeah, so you actually have to intermingle to get close to other human beings here. I hope that's okay. So, and I'll give you 2 minutes to kind of talk and get to know each other. Then I'm going to yell like to ask the jobs question. Okay? And before you guys like really get started, one thing I want to make clear: once we're done with this, if people come up at the end and give you contact information, I'm going to put this together in that value proposition canvas, and then I can send it back out to everybody. You can see what it looks like completed. No, I do want to know. Like, so pick one person to talk to, right? And just listen in to the questions, right? They're meant to be open-ended, so someone can't say yes or no. And just start rattling stuff off. It doesn't matter if you get everything. It just matters that you. Okay. It just matters that you say it and get it written down. So pick one person. Whoever you're talking to, put their real job title on. So I want you to like actually talk to a real person, like if you're going to talk to him, one of these guys, and get their job title and just start listing what you do in the day in life. You can be silly if you want, but it's even better if you do real stuff. Yes. No, well, all of them. Like, don't focus on anything. Just like whoever you're talking to and asking the question. Yeah. So if Andrew here is the person you're talking to, you want to find out everything that he does in a week in a life, everything you might do in a day, just to get a full picture of what you might do. And then maybe it's one of those things that he does in particular are the things that you're interested in, right? And we'll focus in on the next part. How are you guys doing with this? Yeah, I mean, you can just stick with one person, right? So if you stick with one person and keep asking them the questions on here, just for the jobs, we're not going to go to pains yet, okay? And then we'll move forward with that same person. That's probably how it's going to be best. So this is the first time I've done it in this format. Usually it's like all separate. And it's easier to do in like 3 hours. So this is like an experiment. You guys jumped to panes. You're not supposed to jump to panes. Bad Buncombe County folks. Just job. Yeah. If I didn't say that, we're just doing the job section, and we'll stop there, and then I'll explain a little further. We have like a minute or two left. You're already into panes? Well, I mean that's what everyone wants to talk about, but so I get that. Your point? Yeah, that's fine. I mean, some of these questions, like one thing you have to remember is that this can feel like therapy sometimes when you're asking these questions. But just go with it. The more you get out, the more that when you're capturing this information, like you want to keep encouraging the person that you're talking to tell you more about these things. Because the more you can get, the more information you're going to be able to answer about the tasks they do. And then when you're trying to actually build something, you'll build something that they can actually use. I don't have 5 minutes left. Okay, we have like 30 seconds, and then I'm going to call everyone back, and then we'll switch to the next part, but I'll say something about it before we do.
Well, they no.
All right, so I'm going to bring everyone's attention back to the front real quick so we can switch gears, even if we didn't get everything. So real quick, what we're going to do with the panes, and I'm going to tell you what we're going to do with it, and then I'm going to ask you a couple questions here, is that with the panes and the gains, we're going to do the same methodology. One of those tasks that people define for you might relate to an idea of an app that you actually have currently, maybe. Use that to ask questions about the panes. So tailor those questions when it says this job, like use that job, right? But before we do, like, does anyone want to give me examples of jobs and tasks that you found? Just shout it out.
Impervious area maintenance.
Okay, impervious area maintenance. A dashboard web. Someone is making that? Okay. Cool. Difficult, yeah. See, and this gets to be some into it. So when you're hearing these tasks, these are kind of big, broad tasks. Like typically when you're going in and you're talking to these people, you want to ask them to tell you more about that. Like tell me about the time that you were building the dashboard. Because what you want to find out is this is where you start identifying the pains and gains, right? So that's where we're going to go to next is now we want to elaborate on the jobs and tasks. So now we can start building out like what these customers are actually dealing with every day and what's frustrating. So I'm going to start a timer and we're going to start now on the pains. And I'll do the same thing when we're done. How you guys doing with this? You weren't ready for an exercise? You didn't think that when you came in. You didn't think when you came in here that I was going to have you do stuff, right?
It was actually between the textbook and
Perfect. But some of you might, if you find customers that do that, that's perfect, because you'll actually help them do that, right? That's the point. That's the point. That's good. I like it. I know. It'll be good. We got it. I have 10 minutes to finish up. We're good. I got it. I ignore the moderator. Yeah, I ignore the moderator.
It's the one time for everybody. One time.
Per session. So what are you guys thinking? Is this good? Is this helping you? Maybe? Oh, that's fine. That's fine. I think it'll make a lot more sense at the end. All right, I'm gonna cut us a little short so that we can actually get to the last one. So if everyone wants to bring back the attention back to the front, I'm gonna I want to make sure that we keep moving so we can finish before the time's up, because I don't really have a lot of time. So like I said, it was going to be a challenge to do this. So I'm going to give us 3 minutes to do gains, even though I think gains are the most important one. But so if you want to go through those questions on gains, again, I'll walk around. But does anyone want to shout out any pains they found before I do? Like any pains they found with their jobs or tasks that we talked about earlier?
Server keeps going down.
Integrating
Integrating data sets.
Integrating data sets?
Server keeps
The server keeps going down. Great.
GIS failing.
The GS files failing? Okay. So we have some like IT issues. So anyone out there that can...
Security was one as well, sabotaging of data or
Sabotaging data.
yeah,
Okay.
incorrect information being communicated, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. So see, we're getting at some pains of GIS workers. So when we're all done, this is what I was hoping to see, is when you hand me those sheets back, I'll compile it and we'll all have great user research on, what's that? Well, if I can't read it, I'll just make something up that sounds close to what you wrote, so don't worry about it. It'll be good enough, right? But so we have like 3 minutes. Let's jump through gains, and then we can call it quits and all go have a beer in the social hall. Right? So, but I want people to give me their context too, and their papers. So let's do gains.
what the person themselves thinks is going to be.
Yes, they. This is all from the lens of the person you're interviewing, not yours. Like, I don't care about yours, who's coming up with the idea. I care about everybody's idea, but the person who's coming up with the idea, I really don't care about that. What do you think? It's helping? Doesn't matter. As broad as specific as you want, the more specific you can get from people, the better your information is, right? So what you want to keep doing is keep pushing people to tell me more about. Tell me about a time in the past when you did something. Tell me about if someone's having a problem with something, you go, tell me a little bit more about that. Tell me like what happened. And you can start digging into like what exactly is happening. You want to uncover like these little hidden things people are doing, right? And finding shortcuts to do. Because those are the things that apps and websites and tools, when you build them, they get used like all the time, right? And that's when people are like, I can't do my work without this. And that's what you're looking for. So this, yeah, but you guys these are your customers now, right? So the way I'm looking at this is like a way for me to get massive amounts of user research on GIS folks, right? And it's kind of an experiment on my part, which I'm going to explain here in a couple minutes, is that I'm hoping that this works. I don't know if it will, because it takes a lot of time to do this, but it's still important. I want everyone here to also learn how to do this, because I think if you integrate just a little bit of this, you're going to be better off. It kind of is. Yeah, exactly. So you're discovering how to actually help them. So you already know how to do this. Use that same technique right here. You got it. Same technique. Oh, sweet. Awesome. How was this working for you guys? You think it was good? You think you could go back to the office and use it maybe? Yeah. I'm trying to simplify something that's like pretty complex. So in 30 minutes. All right. So I'm going to get everyone's attention back here because we actually have 5 minutes for like questions. But before the questions, I want to hear a couple pains. If someone wants to yell out the pains that they, or the gains, I'm sorry, the gains that they had recorded. Just real quick. Anyone want to yell out a gain?
The Rails is customized from the out-of-the-box every tools to more efficient process.
Cool. This is great. great. So first thing I want to say is I usually do something very similar to this, and it takes 4 hours to get through it for people. So I'm like happy that we actually did it in 30 minutes. So I think that's really cool. The second thing that's really cool, when you guys hand this all back to me, right, and you guys give me context, hopefully, what we now have is we just did user research on however many 25 of these sheets that we passed out on GIS folks that now we can use to help solve GIS problems for GIS analysts or GIS whatever we are, right? So I think that's pretty cool. That's why I want to share it with you. I don't want to collect this information and say, I've got this secret information. I'm going to give it all to everybody who wants it. So if you hand it back to me, I'll also fill out that value proposition canvas for you so you can see it. There will be no ideas. Then it's up to you to come up with the idea. How does that sound? Cool? You can hand me a card, you can put it on the sheet, and I'll do my best if you write it, and the contact information. That really needs to be legible, otherwise I won't be able to do it. But are there any questions you have for me? Yep.
Could you talk a lot about like getting user research and how that works? It's a question for Caroline.
Yeah, so we just had a question about doing user research, which is what this really is, right? And we have a librarian over here. She told me that she has to do this when people ask for reference books all the time. Like you have to like dig into like why people are looking for specific books so she can guide them to the right book, right? So that's the purpose. So the types of questions you ask, these are the types of questions you ask. That's why I provided them. If you notice each one of these questions, there's no way you can say yes or no to them, right? Right? And that's the idea. They're called open-ended questions. And it's tell me about a time. Tell me about when you do this. Those types of things and you're always trying to push them to open up more, right? Until they start feeling uncomfortable because they're in therapy, right? Because that's what it should feel like. If you're doing this right, it should feel to you like you're the therapist and they're getting therapy, right? And then you're dragging this information out of them and you're uncovering the mystery of what they're trying to do. Is there any other questions? Does that help? Does that answer it? Any other questions? Great, thank you. So, what's it? You know what? The thing is about this stuff is when I get like 20 of them, it makes a lot of sense. You'll see the overlapping stuff when it all comes together. Like individually, sometimes you're like, eh. But when you see like 10 of them, you're like, that's weird.
All right, Dave Ferguson, everybody.